Hi everyone, Brianna Dignard here, and welcome to Scientist Storytime. So grab a mug of tea, cozy up, and we're going to talk about the woman responsible for the creation of the EPA, Rachel Carson. It's hard to imagine a time before the environmental movement or the Environmental Protection Agency and other governmental regulations for the environment existed, but this was the reality in the United States until about the 1960s. The woman who changed it all is named Rachel Carson. Rachel Carson was born at the beginning of the 20th century in Pennsylvania on a property surrounded by a lot of woods that she used to love to explore, and that really fostered a love of nature from a young age. She also had a deep passion for writing and was even submitting magazine articles or magazine stories to be published at the age of 11. Her family was in a very poor financial position and remained kind of that way throughout her entire life, and this impacted a lot of what she was able to do. But under the encouragement and a lot of sacrifice by her mother, she was able to attend college at the Pennsylvania College for Women, where she started out by wanting to major in writing, but upon getting to take a great biology lesson, she realized she also loved biology as well. Now at the time, nobody was like, hey, did you know that you could combine biology with writing and make a career out of it, like you could do today in the field of science communication? So she was forced to choose and ended up actually choosing biology over writing. She attempted to start her graduate studies a year early by applying to Johns Hopkins and actually got accepted, but was unable to afford the tuition, so she had to finish out her undergraduate degree in the typical time period. She reapplied to Johns Hopkins after graduation, was accepted again, and began her master's program there, working really hard to keep up good grades and be able to pay for college by working various jobs and assistantships. She had some struggles with her research though and was really unable to kind of narrow down a topic for her thesis, so she ended up delaying her degree by a year in order to finish it. Now, after completing her master's degree, she did go on to try to earn a doctorate degree, but due to, again, her family being really poor, they simply couldn't afford it, and she was forced to drop out to be able to support her family financially. Now, throughout her life, she also had kind of a lot of series of unfortunate life events that occurred that left her responsible for the management and financial responsibility of her family for the rest of her life. So her father died, leaving her to support her brother, mother, sister, and her sister's kids. Her brother didn't want to help out at all and kind of left. And then one of her sisters died, and then one of her nieces got pregnant and had a son, and her niece died, leaving her responsible for the son. And it's just kind of a pattern that would repeat over and over again for all of Rachel's life, leaving her often short of cash, needing some way to support all of these people in her life. So she got a part-time job with the U.S. Bureau of Fisheries after college, which is the first point where she really was able to apply her writing to science. She was hired to write as part-time to write some scripts for a radio program that the U.S. Bureau of Fisheries was putting out. And it was so successful. She was wildly praised for being able to write very scientific information for the non-scientific person. And this led to a full-time job with the U.S. Bureau of Fisheries, where she was able to get a stable salary and write a lot of pamphlets and articles about local seafood, fish, and really get the public involved with what the Bureau was doing. And this was really great at the time. This wasn't something that typically occurred. Science writing was written for scientists. It wasn't written for the general public. And the general public didn't often know what was going on in the scientific world. While she was writing articles and working for the U.S. Bureau of Fisheries, she was also furiously writing off on the side to make more money to support her family. She would write stories and articles for magazines and all of this stuff, and eventually would go on to publish several books to a lot of general critical acclaim. She published Under the Sea Wind and The Sea Around Us, which were really notable for their ability to connect people back to nature. While they weren't often highly praised by the scientific community for not being sciencey enough, the general public loved them. They loved reading them. They were able to connect to these stories in a way they hadn't been able to before and really rekindle a love of nature in the public. Now, this is a time in history where the public wasn't really that interested in nature. Ecology really wasn't a science. Even the scientific world wasn't interested in nature. Following World War II and the creation of the atomic bomb, this was really the dawn of like nuclear physics, chemistry, trying to master the world through man-made objects. Creation of pesticides, herbicides, all these synthetic chemicals to try to tame the world around us. Man wasn't interested in the natural world. Man was interested in inserting itself through science to control the natural world, to a lot of devastating results. And one of those being, like I just mentioned, those pesticides and herbicides that became so popular for the control of weeds or insects. And one of those was called dichlorotriphenyl trichloral, no, DDT. A really long name with the acronym of DDT. Dichlorotriphenyl trichloral Hold up, I gotta go look it up. Alright, so in my attempts to go look up the long name for DDT, I managed to knock over my camera. So getting back to it, one of the main pesticides that was being used was called dichloryl diphenyl trichloroethane, or DDT for short, and thank goodness there's a short name for it. DDT was being widely used without a lot of background research on its toxicity for the eradication of mosquitoes. But as it was being used for spraying along with other pesticides like dieldrin and, oh, there's another one, but I can't remember the name of it. They're all gross, they're all poison. There were a lot of reports coming into the government and to Rachel Carson and other kind of people who were the grassroots of the environmentalist movement in reporting things like, hey, they just sprayed for mosquitoes in my area using DDT and all of the birds in my area also died. Or this lake is experiencing a bunch of dead fish. All of these other unintended side consequences occurring as a result of spraying these poisons. And Rachel Carson, using her experience with the government and knowing how to get access to government information and what kind of things the government would need in order to take action against all these chemical companies spraying poison all over the world, got to work doing some research, looking in, and found that all these chemical companies, while they had made all of these synthetic pesticides and herbicides, they had no idea what they could do other than killing bugs or killing plants. They didn't know if it would kill birds, kill fish, how toxic it was to humans. They had no idea because they hadn't done any research. So Rachel Carson did that research and worked and worked and worked and wrote and wrote, and at the time was also suffering from breast cancer that would eventually end her life and taking care of all of other family, and eventually led to the publication of her famous book, Silent Spring, in 1962. And this was a giant attack against chemical companies, pesticides, all under the kind of metaphor of having a silent spring. That is, all of the bugs are gone, all of the birds are gone, all of the amphibians are gone, all the things that make those nature sounds in the background of a spring were gone because the pesticides had killed them. Her book, of course, received a lot of pushback from chemical companies, from even some people in the government saying that she was harming American farmers because American farmers would use these pesticides to protect their crops. But it was also highly praised because, again, she wasn't writing for other scientists. She wasn't writing a formal government report. She was writing to the people of the United States or the people of the world. People who were now uninvolved in the environment, didn't know what was going on, understood what was happening, could understand that, hey, when chemical companies are coming to spray for mosquitoes, they're also destroying the environment. And they began to push back and start grassroots campaigns and start really caring about the environment. And about 5 to 6 years after Silent Spring had been published, the government passed the act that would put into place the Environmental Protection Agency. They established Earth Day. It started a whole slew of environmental policies that were then able to help protect the environment, and eventually they even ended up banning the use of DDT in the United States. Now, sadly, Rachel Carson didn't get to see any of this progress because she passed away about 18 months after Silent Spring was published due to a very long fight with breast cancer that, again, as I mentioned before, persisted throughout her entirety of writing and researching and publishing Silent Spring. But she left behind a tremendous legacy that we still feel the impacts of today, and we really have to thank her for kind of launching that conservation and environmentalist movement. It's crazy to look back on Rachel Carson's life and see the legacy that she left for today. And she was so successful and had so much influence because she wasn't writing for other scientists, she wasn't writing for the government, she was writing for the average, everyday person. And that is still very important today. A scientist can discover something. It could be really important. But if they don't write about it in a way that appeals to a large audience, nobody's gonna care about it, nobody's gonna do anything about it. And Rachel Carson had a lot of things going against her that she was able to overcome and to be really successful through hard work. She didn't come from a family of great financial means. She never graduated with a doctorate. She didn't have a lot of things that we consider you have to be successful in today's day and age. Yet she still was because she worked so hard and appealed to so many people. And that's something that really inspires me, especially as I'm trying to get more into science communication. Today's fun fact that I want you to rate is that DDT caused eagles and other birds' eggs to become fragile, resulting in the death of many of these birds, and the banning of DDT is one of the reasons why eagles are no longer endangered today. So drop that rating for that fun fact down in the comments below. If you're interested in a free Rachel Carson poster, that is the thumbnail of this video, also in the description below to download that. Please remember to like and subscribe. I post every Tuesday and Friday, and keep it sciencey. Today's fun fact I want you to rate is that DDT was responsible for the deaths of... Today's fun fact I want you to rate is that DDT caused eagle and other eggs. So drop that rating for that fun fact down in the comments below. Please remember to like and subscribe.